Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to introduce my guest today. But first, just as a matter of housekeeping, if you can click to allow StreamYard to put your comments through, that way we can see them and who's commenting from where. I would love it if you would drop a comment if you're here watching us live with the number 1. And if you're watching the replay, comment number 2. We're trying to figure out how to reach more people with live video, and that helps us to do that. Also, if you can share the video, that would help us with our live reach as well. So excited to have Doreen Korba here with us. Doreen, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Yes. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me. My name is Doreen Korba. I am a business coach, a trauma certified business coach. So I'm really, really excited to talk with you about what we're going to dive into today, because it is literally the missing link for entrepreneurs. And it's been revolutionary for my clients, and I love nothing more than sharing it with every single woman that will listen. So a little bit about my background. I spent 15 years as a global marketing executive in small to startup size businesses. I loved it. I was very good at it until I started to have children. And then I was like, okay, these 60-hour weeks, it's not working for me.
Yeah.
I, made a lot of money, very hard to walk away. But when my second baby came along, I knew that the time had come for me to basically figure out how to create my own business, my own way, my own time freedom, and then share with every other woman who would listen to me how to do the same. So that's my mission. I'm on a mission to help women own their time. And we're going to dive into that today.
I'm so excited because you've uncovered some incredible stuff. And quick question, did your mom influence your career path at all? Because I quite adore her.
I love her so much. My mom has known I was going to be doing this very thing since far before I knew it. I mean, I have my master's in counseling. I got that out of college. I graduated with a healthcare degree. I've always been interested in psychology. So yeah, I mean, I grew up, both my mom and my dad, in the flooring industry, which is why this is so special for me today, because I know the flooring industry inside and out, very intimately. And I've been reading Wayne Dyer books and Louise Hay since I was in high school. Okay. So I've been like a self-development person my whole life. And that was absolutely from them.
Amazing. Yeah. Doreen's mother is Tess Madden. So shout out to Tess for helping us connect. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. All right. You ready for me to dive in?
Please do.
Okay. So a couple of things that we're going to dive into today are the hidden secret behind managing your energy and time, understanding yourself more deeply, and having more compassion for why you're operating the way that you are, even though you may not want to. And so those three things are really important for successful business men and women, right? But I have a special place in my heart for women. So I am curious in the chat, if you were here, I want to know if anyone has heard or done any work around their nervous system. So give me a 1 if you have, and a 2 if you haven't. And the reason I ask this is because you may be familiar, like I was even at an early age, I mentioned Wayne Dyer, with mindset. You know, the brain is the most powerful tool you have. Like, we'll hear this again and again. And it is true. Your brain is extraordinary. And knowing how to create intentional thoughts and things that you want to be true for you, you can create anything you want by using that intentional thought process. And so that's a whole nother training. If you haven't done that work, that is also incredible. But it is not true that your thoughts create your results when it comes to having trauma happen to you in your life. Like, it is not your fault when life happens to you. And in the entrepreneurial space, for driven women, sometimes we can get gaslit by thinking that, oh, well, if I just had a stronger mindset, If I just was stronger, if I just was not the way that I am, I would have different results in my life. And this was me for sure. And it makes me sad. And like you can tell, like I'm on a mission to change the dynamic around mindset work is important for intentional thought creation, for visualization, for imagining where you want to go and owning that, and then collapsing time to embody that and all of those things. But when we talk about energy management and time management in your day to day, we have to be honest with ourselves around a couple of things. The way we were raised, the impact that little t trauma or big T trauma has had on our physical bodies, not just on our minds. And so many times if we know, okay, like I had a good upbringing, but maybe there was neglect, or maybe there was just not enough emotional capacity for mom or dad, right, to meet the need, which was that generation that I came from, like my parents' generation. They did the best they could from the generation before, but also they didn't know all the things that we know now as parents. And so that carries with us, not just in our minds, but in our nervous systems. And so my story is I lost my second child at birth after 2 years of struggling with infertility. And it was at that point when I knew my life was not for sale. I was going to do what I loved for the rest of my life, and I was going to serve others. So I have big T trauma experience, but I wasn't honest with myself about some little t trauma I had for that experience. And so not being honest with myself meant that I was living in a state of fight or flight, overachieving, looking for my next external validation hit of self-worth at every quarter. And this is so common for the most successful women. I see this pattern. All of my clients. So as a business coach, I work one-on-one with clients. I work in small group with clients. I have so many trainings that I do for lower tickets so people can get the information. And there's this common theme of living in this fight or flight state. So that fight or flight state is actually your nervous system. And you've likely heard of fight or flight. You're like, oh, I'm in fight or flight. That's great. And what I had heard was like, oh, trauma lives in the body. And I'd be like, all right, therapist, I'm on year 2, coming twice a week. When we're going to get to the body stuff? My mind had healed, but my body hadn't. And I knew that because I would be triggered. So we find ourselves being triggered, and here's this huge outburst of emotion. You're like, okay, there's more to do here, and it's from my body. So the way the nervous system works, this autonomic nervous system is what I'm talking about, is think of it like a thermometer. You've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, which is if you feel stressed or anxious or like go, 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 or constant swirling thoughts, you know, gotta do this, gotta do that, especially as mamas. That fight or flight means that you are in that sympathetic nervous system. That is where most of you are probably living. That is how we get a lot done, we think, right? We got to go, go, go. We got to hustle. We got to do more. We got to be more. And so when we're in that sympathetic nervous system, this may be common. You may feel this is you may see that you can go, 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 and then crash. Go, 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 and then crash. And what happens is I was able to go, 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 and crash every night after those 60 hours because I didn't have kids. But then when I had kids, I was like, oh, I can't use this amount of energy in the day and crash at night, because at night was my most important job. It still is. And if I can't recover, there's no time to recover as a parent at night. I needed to figure out a way to make my day less stressful and still be as effective, still be global marketing, still be all of the things, but be more effective with my energy and time. Because this fight or flight response wasn't working for me anymore. And I know that there's people that are like, yes, like I am crashing. And sometimes the crashing looks, I'll go all week and I'll need a day in bed. I mean, I've had clients say like, I need Sunday in bed, totally zoning out on Netflix or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with zoning out on Netflix. I love that for you. I just don't want that to be the only time you zone out. I don't want you waiting until the crash. And so the reason the body does that is it cannot sustain the fight or flight in the nervous system. The nervous system cannot sustain that for long periods of time. So fight or flight is very important because as women, it is what protects our family. It is what protects us. If someone's walking behind us too close and we're afraid we're going to get jumped, like that fight or flight is beautiful and necessary. And your nervous system is always trying to protect you. But when we're living there and we're just working in our day-to-day life, it doesn't know that there's no bear, that there's no predator. It doesn't know that there's no, that it doesn't need to kick in to that heightened survival mode.
Right.
And so when we crash, what we're crashing into is our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the other end of that kind of thermometer. That's that bottom of that thermometer where we come back to that normal temperature in our body. We call it the rest and digest state. We call it, it's really the state where I want everyone living from all day, every day. And the secret, the key is that this is the state where all the creativity happens.
Right.
All the magic happens. All the money comes from when you're in this state. But we're not taught that. Society doesn't reinforce that, especially in the United States of America. We're taught go, 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 work harder, work harder.
Right.
And so when we crash, we have to. But when you learn to understand and heal and work with your nervous system, you don't get into the spike of the fight or flight unless it's actually necessary, right? Unless it's actually a threat to your survival. You don't get stuck in those stages, and it is the biggest energy drain. Being in those stages is like, I wouldn't even say it's like a nail in a tire. It's like slash the tires. Like it is exhausting for your body. And so if you're experiencing extended overwhelm, fatigue, insomnia, or just simply waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to fall back asleep, or not being able to fall asleep, or waking up with racing thoughts, like all of this is absolutely tied to your autonomic nervous system and the way that your nervous system is running your life. And I mentioned mindset in the beginning because we are sometimes taught that your mind is running your life.
Right.
But when it comes to nervous systems, our nervous systems have these patterns of fight or flight that started in childhood. Our nervous system mimics our mom's. Not our dads, our moms. If our mom was the primary caretaker, if she was in the picture, it mimics moms.
That is really interesting. I don't know. I doubt my mom's on here, but she's pretty high strung. So that does track because for me, I didn't experience any, like you're talking about, if you're having insomnia and if you're having this negative consequence, then you are in this state. See, I thought I was doing all the right things when I was living at that level. Of flight. So I didn't think anything was wrong. I thought I was.
And that's because that was your pattern from before. That's your pattern since you were this tiny, precious baby that was just born.
That's
your mom's state of her nervous system is supposed to, babies and toddlers are inherently very dysregulated. They don't have any regulation. So mom needs to be super grounded and regulated and in this parasympathetic state to calm baby. But when mom doesn't have these tools, no moms did back then, they are just literally doing the best they can. We adopt that nervous system. And this is how generational trauma is passed, right? It's not intentional, right? And so we are now working on mom's nervous system I mean, my mom's going to watch this too. I mean, not to say it's your fault, mom, but like, yes, this is absolutely her nervous system, especially when I was younger, was like, let's go. And my
Yeah.
dad too. Like, I grew up in a family of hustlers.
Yeah.
That's what we do, right?
Right.
And so
That was like
unwinding that,
aspirational, not a negative thing. So it took me a while to really separate myself from that identity.
yeah, I was just gonna say that you and I are so alike. Like the identity, and I was so proud to be able to run
Mhm.
circles around team members,
Yeah.
around everyone, right? Like, oh, I
Mhm.
can do so much more than everyone else, but it was at the expense of me.
Right.
And no one knew that but me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so our nervous system has these patterns. So it's patterned from mom. And then trauma is literally, guys, it's just defined as anything that's too much, too fast, too soon. So middle school, you're alienated by a friend, no one talks to you for 4 days, you feel insane rejection, too much, too
Mhm.
fast, too soon. That little T trauma lives with you. And then big T trauma, anything that has happened in your life, don't forget divorce, those types of things, all of that, your nervous system is always trying to protect you. And so now it has a pattern. And the
Mhm.
reason it feels comfortable as an adult is because just because it's comfortable doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's even what's best. It's just all you know.
Mhm.
So understanding this fight or flight, and how only you will know, if like you will have thoughts in the back of your minds like, this is not sustainable. Like, I can't do this forever. I need
Mhm.
a vacation. Like,
Mhm.
I need to go on a beach and disconnect for a week. It's like, that is all. You're still gonna, even in your parasympathetic state, you're still gonna want to go on vacation, but you're not
Yeah.
gonna need it like your life depends on it, because you will be living day to day in a state where you are taking care of yourself,
Mhm.
nurturing yourself, honoring your needs, and managing this energy outflow from this heightened state that is incredibly draining.
Yes, you made an important distinction earlier, and I think it's really critical that we separate time management and energy management.
Mhm. Yeah, because I don't know better. Like, if you want something done, give it to a working
Mhm.
mom. Like,
Yeah, that's
we're
for sure.
amazing at managing our time. Like,
Right.
we got that nailed because we don't have a choice.
Hmm.
But the energy management is like, okay, I have a lot of moms say, like, I am out of time. And I'm like, yeah, but we still have so much hope here, because you haven't even scratched the surface
Yeah.
of calming and regulating your nervous system. Now,
Yep.
I want to make a note here. Calming your nervous system does not mean you're just like, chill, let's have a glass of wine all day, I don't care about anything. Like, that is not what I'm talking about. Like, there's no part of
Hmm.
me that's like that.
Hmm.
It simply means that we are grounded, secure, our inner trust is unshakable, we are
Hmm.
embodied, like we are actually in our body
You know what
instead
it
of
feels like to me?
yeah.
It feels like the ever elusive mythical balance that we've been trying to crack the code on, and no one can quite template it for anyone else because it's all different. I think when you are managing your energy, that is where you begin to experience balance. And I always thought that was in how I was allocating my time. And if I could just rearrange and tweak that time matrix, time management system in the right way, that I would achieve this, balance that everybody is trying to figure out. And it turned out to be more about energy management, and it feels like balance.
Yes, it's the best. People ask me all of the time, like, how do you have three small kids? I have an 11, a 6, and a just turned 5-year-old.
Mhm.
I'm very present with them. People around town have no idea I even like have a job, much less like have a business. And I'm not saying I don't work hard. I'm just saying, like, I am with them a lot. Like, if they're not in
Mhm.
school, I'm with them because I want
Mhm.
to be. That was a choice, by the way. I don't, not saying like everyone should be. But for me, having lost a child, that's what I wanted, right? I wanted
Yeah.
to enjoy the children I have. And so the only way, and plus, in addition to a very successful coaching business, I have a nonprofit that supports grieving
Mhm.
families, and we service, the tri-state area, and we do things nationally. Like, that's something my mom and I do together. It's like we have a lot going on, but it doesn't feel stressful. Like, it's joyful. And it's
Mhm.
only because of this work.
Mhm.
It's only, and I stumbled upon it. And Michelle, I know you did too. And I hope today is someone else's, oh my gosh, I stumbled upon the key. Because in my own grief journey, I had done the therapy, and I'm a trained therapist. That's the first thing I did, was go to therapy. And then I was like, okay, there's still more. And then I found life coaching, and I was like, oh, the mind, I can do all kinds of things with my mind and make me feel better.
Mhm.
Right. And then I was like, but there's still more.
Yeah.
And it was literally by the grace of God that I met my trauma coach, who had spent 12 years diving into this work. And I did this work with her in a one-on-one setting. And then I got certified, which took a year for me to understand the deep science around this and understand and work with others, not just my own nervous system. And now it's
Mhm.
the core of everything I teach. And it is stumbling upon it. And one of the things Michelle and I were talking about before we jumped on here was like, well, why isn't this more mainstream? And
Mhm.
it is becoming more mainstream, but it's simply because it's not new, but it's newer, right? Like, this is a whole new body of work where it is profound, and anything new people are skeptical about.
Okay.
Everything, every industry I've ever worked in, I did. If you guys want to get a lot of education, you should follow me on Instagram. It's at Doreen Korba. But every industry I've ever worked in marketing was an emerging market, which meant everyone thought it was a scam
So you,
until,
so you know this routine.
yeah, until genetic testing for psychiatry, genetic testing for cancer, wellness resorts, like everything was a scam until it wasn't. Until it was like, oh my God, that saved thousands of lives, right? And
Mhm.
so just because this is emerging into more mainstream, doesn't mean that you can't benefit from the just so much science behind it,
Yeah.
and in the benefits of it. So if we're thinking about our nervous system, and I want to do this exercise with you, for
Okay.
everyone who is watching, I want you to notice how you feel in your body, not in your brain, in your body right now.
Okay. So
And
like,
you may or may not have access to your body. That's okay. And for all women that want to do it right, you can't do it wrong. So when I ask you this, and you'll see I'm even slowing down my talking. This happens naturally when I go from teaching mode to coaching mode. We are
mhm.
just slowing down everything. And I want you to feel what it feels like in your body. I put my hands here. This is called
Okay.
containment. You can see my Halloween nails.
So
Um,
cute.
I do this containment where it comes naturally to me, but I really like, and this is a nervous system tool, I really like to be held, and we can
Mm.
give that to ourselves. And so you may want to put your hands over where you feel discomfort, anxiety, anything in your body. For some of my clients, it is in their head, but it's not the thoughts, it's the actual sensation. And so you
Mhm.
can hold your head. For me, everything's always in my chest, and I like a lot of pressure. So you can play with how much pressure. Start with light touch, start then kind of play with the pressure, and you'll and listen to yourself. You will even know that feels good, or you're like, I don't want that. And you follow that. And so some of my clients, it's in their belly. I call it the womb energy. Like, it's different for everyone. There's been times when it's been in my sternum where it's just like, oh. And so just seeing how you feel in your body, knowing that you've likely come from something else, you're running to something else, you're trying to fit this in. It's how we know we're in our bodies. We're actually feeling not an emotion, but sensation.
Okay.
So, for example, a temperature. So let's say I'm like, oh, I feel something here. I'm like, oh, well, what's the temperature of that? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it warm? What's the size of the thing I'm feeling? It could be, typically for me, it's like this big circle, like oblong thing. But for a client yesterday, it was kind of like a band around her body, and it was very tight, like fascia that's all joined. It's different for
Mhm.
everyone. It's different for every moment in the day. It's different for every experience. But it's about just seeing what you actually feel. And
So
then the
any
last,
sensation in your body, or the dominant sensation in your body, or how do you?
if you notice a couple, that's amazing,
Okay.
right? Like that's great. And so if you notice something else, so sometimes pleasurable feelings will come and you're like, oh, I
Okay.
feel a lack of what I usually feel. And that can feel open and
Mm-hmm.
expansive. And we can feel that too. I sit with my clients a lot and we feel pride and joy just as much as we feel the hard things.
Yeah.
Because as women, we're not taught to feel those things. So
Yeah.
when they come, we feel them.
Mm-hmm.
We own them, we anchor them. And so for you, Michelle, I'll just take you as an example. What do you feel in your body right now?
I have a little bit of a headache in the back of my head that I was noticing as I kind
Yeah.
of scanned my body. So I put my hands there.
How does it feel to put your hands there?
It's like it gives me a little bit of relief to put pressure on it.
Great. And so that's you supporting you.
Hmm.
And it looks like you're rubbing a little bit. Great.
Mhm.
That self-soothing is
Mhm.
so important. If you roll back to the very beginning of this training, I was
Mhm.
rocking a little bit. I didn't
I
even
do
know I
that
was
a
doing
lot
it.
on video too.
I didn't even know I was doing it, but that is a common self-soothing thing that we do as
Uh-huh.
humans. Um, Rocking, and sometimes I'll have clients be like, "Oh, well, I always do this with my feet. Like I'm always rubbing my 2 feet together."
Mm.
The nervous system again that's nervous system. Like that is embodiment. It's always looking to soothe you, support you, like your nervous system is your best friend. And when you start to treat it like your best friend, like the number one person in your life,
Mhm.
it will support you beyond your wild imagination. Like you will have all the time, all the energy, all the freedom, all the money. Like
Yeah, it sounds crazy.
it sounds insane.
It sounds insane, but
Yes,
it's so true.
it's so true. It's so amazing.
And I think that's a simple way to start to notice it is
Yes.
where are you moving? Like I move on video, like you move on video, or how people fidget while they're sitting, or any of those things are good ways to just become aware that it's with you.
Absolutely. And I want to teach you all today. We have time to do an exercise.
Oh yeah.
Okay, perfect. I want to teach you an exercise today that after you check in with yourself and you see how you're feeling,
Mhm.
we're going to do my favorite exercise. It is free. You could do it anywhere. You can do it in the middle of a family argument. If you can't handle what's going on, like I love it because no one will know you're doing it. But you do want to practice doing this. When I first started doing this, I would do it 3 times a day just to practice my nervous system dropping into that sympathetic,
Mm.
that parasympathetic without me crashing. So actually supporting, reprogramming, having a new pattern from what I had lived for 38 years, now 41. I've been doing this own work on myself for 3 years. So what we're going to do, it's called orienting. It is my favorite. My clients, when they first do it, I'll warn you, will be like, what are we doing? Can we get to the coaching? And I'm like, in 5 sessions, you're going to be asking me to do this at the beginning of every session. It's amazing. What we're going to do is we're going to start on one side of the room and we are going to scan the room. You're going to look up, and down. And you're just gonna look around fairly slowly. And if something catches your eye, we call it orienting to pleasure. So if there's a picture on your desk, or we really want to pull in the pleasure, and we just want to take a look around, and we're going to scan all the way to the side. And again, I want you sitting. I don't want you moving your chair. I want you just sitting in your chair and using your head to turn, and then go all the way back really slowly. And then we're going to check back in with each other. So this won't take longer than like 40 to 60 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, so start on one side of the room. I'm going to do it with you all. And you're going to take a look around. I already just noticed my body took a spontaneous deep inhale and exhale. You may notice that within yourself. And you may start to hear sounds that you didn't notice before. I think there's rain outside for me. Or smells. You're going to have access to your senses more than you did before. And you keep going. Michelle, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And take your time if you're still looking around, but then I want you to check in with how you feel now. What do you notice now? What's the shift? And Michelle, how do you feel now?
So that headache in the back is like relieved. I think it's just like when I'm looking at this video from this platform that we're on, I'm trying to watch the time, and I'm trying to watch the comments, and I'm trying to look at you.
Yeah.
And so my brain kind of, that little headache kicks in. So just taking my attention away from it for a little bit.
I just switched to the comments. I didn't see any comments until now. So now I can see them. So you think that that's what it is. And I'm going to tell you what it actually is.
Okay.
So you're dropped into your parasympathetic. You're likely calmer, which is what you just described. You're not multitasking anymore, which is what will happen, right? And you will feel a relief of sensation, the painful or discomfort in your body. So for me, all my chest stuff is gone. But I will warn you, when I first started to do this exercise, sometimes I was so hyped up, it would take me 3 times of orienting to feel any relief. And so
just doing that thing continuously 3 times, scanning the room.
Yeah. And taking your time and taking it all in and noticing, oh, I mean, even while I did that, I had 2 big inhale exhales. Like that is a physiological response from your nervous system coming from the sympathetic, which I need to be in to teach, to the parasympathetic.
I love that it's so discreet, because you can do that anywhere.
Anywhere. I do it all of the time. I do it all of the time. And I want to tell you a little bit about the science behind it, because I'm a person that needs to know why in order to do the thing. And so if you are, how do we do this, but still pay attention to what the other person is doing? Okay. Yes. Don't worry about anyone else, because you're going to be doing this by yourself. This is just an example of how to get yourself by yourself from the sympathetic into the parasympathetic.
Mm.
So as babies, as mammals, babies, you can search, animals in the wild. If you have a baby in your life, you will notice this. We do this naturally. We have our fight or flight. Oh my God, mom's not feeding me. Or, oh my God, I don't like what my sister did, or whatever. We have our freak outs, which is the fight or flight, that dysregulation. And then when we are done crying or having our moment, we will naturally look around. So as mammals, this is a natural physiological thing we do to assess the level of actual threat.
Uh-huh.
So what we just did for your nervous system is we assessed the level of actual threat. I'm all hyped up, but in fact, I don't know why, because there's 3 walls I looked at, there's paintings, there's a lamp, there's no threat here.
Right.
And so it helps drop you out of your brain, which can create all kinds of stories that are likely never going to happen and untrue, and into your body.
Mm-hmm.
And by using your eyes to assess the level of threat, your nervous system can respond accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
This would not work if you are actually in threat. If you are actually in a scary situation, right? That is a proper use of the fight or flight response.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us are walking around with improper uses of this response based on just patterns in our nervous system.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's just a tool that I love to teach on trainings because it's something you can implement immediately, in addition to some containment and checking in with your body and supporting yourself. And in the nervous system healing and regulation world, I have tons of tools, but it's more about deepening the tools.
Yeah.
So this is a simple tool that 3 years later, I'm still using.
Mm-hmm.
And it's profound in my life. It also helps you if you're in a state of any kind of intense emotional state. When you begin to look around as well, it will titrate the intensity of that emotion. And so if you're out there and you are grieving or you are going through, just financially in the world, things are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And you are going through a hard time, as so many people are, you can, when I learned that I could titrate and lower the intensity of the emotion, I was less afraid to go there in coaching, in trauma, and do the work I needed to do because I knew I had it out.
Mm.
So it's really, it seems simple and it's free, right? But it's so profound. And so this is how in my work, we work with your natural physiology, what your body would naturally want to do when we reintroduce those things to help get you into this cool, calm, and collected state where life is joyful and fun, and you have energy to do what you want.
So if someone is wondering if this type of work is applicable to their situation, or if they're a good candidate for it, or if they need to focus on this, what would you say?
I've never met a person yet, a human. I see everything now so differently. I just see everyone as walking around with dysregulated nervous systems.
Yeah.
It helps you also have so much more compassion for family members or friends or people in your life that don't have these tools and don't have this understanding of self, and maybe operating in a way that you had felt hurt by because you took it personally, when now you realize, oh, that's just a pattern in their system and has nothing to do with me. So it is profound. Whether you identify with the T word, trauma, or not, I didn't identify
resistance to that. There are some, I've worked with people who have a really hard time wrapping their head around applying that T word to themselves. But it's really, whether or not you feel like you've experienced trauma, central nervous system work is for anybody with a central nervous system.
If you're a human, it's for you. It's that simple. And you're not I also don't like to use the T word on me because I don't want trauma. I don't want to
Mhm.
be the person that had big T trauma. It's not an identity I want. And so any of us who have had life happen to us,
Yeah.
no one wants that identity, right? And so it is there did come a time when I had the capacity to say, okay, this happened to me. And I that is part of who I am, but it's still not
Mhm.
my identity, right? But
Right.
understanding it's part of my journey is what allowed me to heal at the deepest levels and be free on the other side. So,
Mhm.
from the trauma, the grief will always be there, but the actual trauma around,
Yeah.
those things that happen in your nervous system.
Yeah, and your body's response to it.
Absolutely. So
Wow.
I've been talking for a while, so I wanted to see if there were any questions. I'm happy to take a few before we end. So I'm going to scroll through these comments here and just
Yeah.
see. I love them. Christina. Interesting. My body for years often feels initially hot, and I have always had these mild vibrations. Absolutely. Well done for being aware of those. I am
Mm.
very proud of you. That is a really big thing. Most people are so disconnected. Like, you hear like mind body connection, like that means like mindset nervous system connection. Like most
Mhm.
people are walking around simply thinking about their feelings, thinking about their day, and they're not actually feeling. And
Mhm.
so this tells me that you have access to your body, access to what's going on there. And when you do feel that way and the mild vibrations, it's just orient and see, and you can track. And I teach this a lot. Like if you follow my work on at Doreen Korba, and I'm on Facebook too, but Instagram is where I do most of my live teaching. I can teach you how to track that and move that throughout the body. So that is awesome. I love that. Yeah, well, my mom thing makes sense to me. My mom had me as a teen, and she was basically a child herself. Mine too, right? Mine
Mhm.
was 24 years old. I mean, she was amazing for what she did. And so we can look at our childhoods and we can look at our parents with love, but also we have to heal the impact it had on our nervous systems. Like we're not
Mhm.
excused from that because we love them so much. We can separate the love we have and also the reality. And a lot of us will gaslight ourselves around the way we feel, not just with parents, but just in general, like, oh, other people have it worse. Or
Yeah.
that is like the biggest thing I hear. And I'm like, okay, great. There
Mhm.
is no trophy for pain.
Yeah, that's what I
Someone
say.
else may have had it worse. Doesn't mean that you're not entitled to feel what you feel.
Yeah. If you're
So,
drowning in 6 inches of water or 6 feet of water, you're still drowning.
right. Right. And so as women, though, we're taught, be a good girl, do the right thing, even at the expense of you. Right.
Yeah.
Um, so like, yeah, I just more than I feel. Oh, okay. Some of you had heard of the nervous system. That's so fun. I'm sorry to see
Mhm.
this earlier. Yay. Oh, this is so good. Let me see the new comments. Um, I knew what stuff was wrong for years when I can be soaking hot in 30-degree weather. Yeah. Yes. Yes. That is your body expressing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like we can let that happen. So again, this is not shame. And in fact, I hope today gives you a sense of a deeper self-appreciation for the way that your body has been showing up for you your whole freaking life. And we like, thank God for that.
Mhm.
I've been through many traumatic things in my life from childhood to adulthood. What does it mean to be healed from that? Oh, this is such a good question. Again,
Mm.
another client yesterday say like, Doreen, how do I know if I'm healed?
Let me put that one up.
Yeah. And here's how you'll know. When things happen to us, and I'll use my situation as an example, a beautiful, healthy 8 pounds baby that died from a true knot in her umbilical cord,
Mhm.
undetected, no idea what was happening. She and I were doing great until we weren't.
Mm.
And when life happens to you, it's a little different because she's she's my daughter, so I'm always going to honor her, talk about her. She's going to be with me
Yeah.
the rest of my life. But when these negative things, the death of her, right, happens to you, you still carry that, right? Like that's still, it changes you. But the way you know you're healed at the nervous system level is that the triggers, Christmas or certain things that would have triggered you they stop that intense emotion. Now you'll
Mm.
still potentially have grief around it. Am I allowed to say a bad word?
Yeah.
I'm still pissed, right? I'm still thinking life is unfair. I'm still angry at certain things, right? That's still on my journey.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also able to talk about her. If you would have told me 8 years ago that I'd be having this conversation, I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is how we know you've healed, is you're able to move forward throughout your day. You are contributing to the world. You are doing your work. And yes, while you may have memories, of course, it is not negatively impacting you going on to find joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so how you know you've healed is only you will know. Only you will know, and you will know because what used to upset you won't anymore. I see this a lot in divorce. I see this a lot with all kinds of little T traumas too, like the things that just were never addressed. You will know you healed when they stop showing up as patterns in your life.
Yeah. That's a really good explanation. I'd also like to challenge the thinking around the word healed, because as we continue through life, we pick up other things, other
Yep.
stuff happens. And so, not looking to achieve like an after to the before part of your story, but to recognize yourself as a living being and just choose to be in a state of healing that's going to be at different levels at different times. Doreen and I talked about being in seasons of healing at different points in our life, at in more depth.
Yes, and then being in a season of more fun
Mm-hmm.
is okay too. And then there may be a season where more healing needs to happen. And it's
Mm-hmm.
exactly why I structure my programs the way that I do. Like, I don't want you to need me forever. I
Yeah.
want you to go fly, right? And then come back when you are, when you do need additional support. So I hope that that's helpful. Well, yeah, the triggers still cause the tears I try to hide. Yes. So that, my friend, is how I knew there was more to do in my own journey. So I was functioning, I was operating from the outside looking in. No one would have known, but right under the surface, I was ready to cry all the time.
Yeah. And I think we have a tendency to think that we're hiding things really well, but it's showing up in other ways.
Always. Yes.
Yes. And so externally, there's a really different feeling for me, around somebody who has a regulated nervous system. And it's a common thing to hear. You are the average of the 5 people who you spend your time with. And I'm always thinking, well, I want to be the average of the central nervous systems of the 5, the 5 people I spend the most time around with. So I'm always noticing. So it is apparent, even if you have those things living just under the surface, and you feel like you're hiding them, like a kid looks at hide and go seek. I can't see you, so you're not there. It's there, even when you are, holding it back.
It is there. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm just making sure there's any other questions. I can relate to, can I put this one from Sunshine Word? I can relate to everything you've mentioned in this session, and I've recently been diagnosed with chronic PTSD and have been literally fighting to recover. I appreciate this so much.
I'm so glad you were here, Sunshine. And we had a lot of people hop on with us live. I'm sure more will watch later, but that tells me that this is a topic that people recognize is really important. So I would love for everybody to connect with Doreen over on Instagram, start digging into some of the things that she teaches there. And she puts a lot of really great stuff out. Try the exercise that we did during this session, and let's continue this conversation.
Thank you so much. It's such a
Thank
joy.
you.
Thank you for the comments too, and it's so much more fun when it's interactive. So
Yeah.
it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doreen, and thank you all.